back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
It's great to be back with you. Today I'm with Ben Kimball. He is the co-owner of Kimball Productions and the COO, senior editor, producer, and screenwriter. He holds a Master's of Fine Arts in Screenwriting and serves part-time as a public affairs officer in the Colorado Air National Guard. Kimball Productions is a creative team of dedicated individuals focusing on making great motion picture stories of all kinds, ranging from continuing medical education, CMEs, on to corporate narrative and beyond. Welcome, Ben. It's wonderful to have you back on the show.
That's great to be back, Chuck.
Okay, so we had you on one other time a while back, and we ended that show. I just kind of blurted this out as an ending. We just it was about being intentional about what you want. And we talked a little bit around the edges about, in order to be intentional, well, you have to ask yourself, intentional about what? And so I ended this show with, Stephen Covey said, start with the end in mind. And that's that's the powerful intention that we want to talk about today is, what does it mean to start with the end in mind? And why do you end up in different places? Because you have a different end in your mind. So we talked about this in the first show, so we don't want to do too much. We'll let people hear it there, but give us a quick sentence or two about the end in mind that you had before you got a better intention by reading the book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, and get involved in some other things. So what was your mindset for years in business?
Yeah, I think
what was your intention?
Yeah, our first probably maybe decade or more in business was, our intention was, we got to pay the mortgage.
Okay.
I got to pay the mortgage, and I gotta have food on the table.
And so did you pay the mortgage?
We did.
Yeah.
We paid the mortgage, and we ate. And that was good. Some months it was awful close, within a few $100s of that, which is not great, but we did do that.
Okay. So that was your end, and you got your end. And we talked about this in the first one. You get what you intend and not what you hope for. You intended, that was your intention, was to pay your mortgage, and you did. And it worked for a while. And then the light went on and you found something else that you wanted to do that was a little more intentional. So give us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. So when we found the book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, it was for the first time, and I think the whole course of our business together, my dad and business partner and I, we found the possibility that we could get off the treadmill. And me particularly, as I was doing most of the production, all of the production in the business. He's doing the producing, I would be the filming and editing and all of that. So I was running at a pretty good clip on that treadmill, and it felt like I didn't know it was possible to wish that I could be off the treadmill. Now that I know that, I want to get off this treadmill.
Yeah. So that was the aha for you. First thing you had to do was believe that it was possible for you to get off that treadmill. And that's huge. I mean, that without that, we're dead in the water. It's like, how do you help an alcoholic? Well, not until they say I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
How do you help a business owner? Not until they say I'm an income producer. I'm really not a business owner. If I go on vacation, the business stops. That's an income producer.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have to get to the point where we admit that to ourselves. And then you might say, and I'm okay with that. Well, then just keep going and make sure you have really good disability insurance.
Right. Yeah.
But at some point, I believe for most of us, it will still not be enjoyable for you to be the only person there's too much weight in your shoulders. So you changed your intention, and your intention became specifically more what?
Yeah. So our intention became that I wanted to get off the treadmill. I wanted to be able to step away from the business, and it would still be making money instead of the way that we had experienced for the first, decade plus of our business together, where if I wasn't in the chair editing stuff and turning it in and then invoicing, we weren't making money.
So let me ask you this. Is this how you did it? The light went on You decided that the business should make money without you. You got the people together and said, make this go, I'll be on the golf course. Is that how it worked?
Sadly, no.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
an initial realization that, okay, I don't want to be on the treadmill anymore. This book has given me hope that there is a potential existence whereby I could step off this treadmill. But that's a multi-step process, and that's going to require not only a mindset shift, which is a big deal, and that has to happen, but we're going to have to do some things in order to make that true. So other people are going to have to become a part of this thing we call Kimball Productions. And I'm going to have to make sure they're trained and ready to go and able to interface with our clients so that we don't lose the clients that we already have. A lot of our businesses, 90+% is referral. So it has to do with cultivating those relationships. It's either referral or repeat business. So repeat business with the clients we already have, or referral from them to somebody else to say, hey, we really enjoyed working with these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a slide up here because I'm laughingly, sadly, sometimes you get creeped out as you talk because you realize, oh yeah, this was actually me. Now I remember how this went. This wasn't good. This wasn't fun. But
Right.
I think there's three ways that we can relate to our business. We can be the manager, or we can be the leader. Managers get things done. Leaders make sure things get done. That sounds like the same thing. It's radically different. Let me say it again. Managers get things done. Leaders make sure things get done. They don't do the things. They just make sure they get done. And if they're smart, they don't stand around having to tell people what to do. They get a process in place, and the reports come find them, and they make sure things get done by getting the right people in place, getting the right and then they don't have to do things. They've already made sure it's getting done. So what we're advocating here is, with this idea, is before you were managing, and your end in mind was just to get your mortgage paid, and to do that you had to do all the stuff.
Right.
And now you're saying, maybe I need to get other people to do all the stuff, or some of the stuff. That's the beginning of leadership. But here's what happens. I'll put this slide up and we'll all laugh at it, and I'll explain it for those who aren't watching. But this is what happened to me. So I'm over here on the left side, and I'm a manager, and I'm getting stuff done. And managers focus on process and how, and they're in your soup. And then you find out, oh, I want to get off the treadmill. Oh, that sounds great. And it's so easy to collect the 3 to 5 to 200 people and say, I've figured out I've been managing you. I need to stop managing you. So you guys run this, and I'll be on the golf course. And we flip all the way to the other side, and we call it abdication. That is the third way to relate to our business. That's not smart. Leadership is not abdication. Leaders make sure things get done. They're not on the golf course mentally. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be on the golf course a lot more than they weren't before, but they're still in the game. It's just in a very different way. They're watching the reports. They're watching stuff come to you. I love the image of the guy what was the guy's name who started Wendy's?
Dave Thomas.
Dave Thomas. Yeah. He was a leader. He learned how to get one number to come find him every day. The number of buns sold nationwide. And from that number, he can extrapolate all kinds of things. That's leadership. So he was still involved. He made sure things got done, but he wasn't getting them done. So did you do any of that abdication? My gut says you probably did a lot less of that than I did, just because I know a little bit about you. But did you or anybody do a little bit of that?
Yeah, I would say, thankfully, we did not swing over to abdication. And perhaps that comes on the heels of a lot of this happened around the same time that I went to officer training school. So in my military career, I switched from being an enlisted person to an officer. The intention is that you're a leader as an officer, not a manager. Nice. That's what the senior non-commissioned officer corps is supposed to be doing, is managing and making sure that those things get done. But the leader is casting the vision and following up. So I think it was a good time for me to go through that, because I wound up being able to lead, I think, to be fair, more micromanaging than I should have done.
Sure.
So probably still tighter into the manager side.
Yeah, a lot of what we call leadership, if we looked at it, we'd realize, oh yeah, that's actually management and micromanagement. Yeah. So it's hard. It's just hard to lead and trust other people. and then look at the reports afterwards and say, hey, this went well, or it didn't. Let's get together and figure it
Right.
out. I'm still going to have you do it the next time, but let me
Right.
tell you, let me help you see how we can do it better. But it's really easy. I find myself all the time wanting to slip back into managing myself and other people.
Yeah.
It's a point of security for us. Nobody's good enough to do this but me. So I'll just, if you want something done, do it yourself, kind of thing.
Well, boy, that's it. And it reminds me of how I've needed to grow as a father. I have 3 kids, and they're varying ages right now. The youngest is 12. But yeah, early days, I wanted them to learn how to mow the lawn or whatever it was. And then I realized sitting and training them how to mow the lawn to my standards was going to be multiple times, multiple iterations of training.
Yeah.
And it's going to take me an awful lot longer than just me mowing the lawn. So having to gut it out there for a little bit, so that now I just, hey, the lawn needs mowed. They go out, they get it done, and it's done faster. It's done better than I would do it. So this is good. We've progressed from there. I feel like I'm leading in that respect, at least in the lawn mowing. We know I could improve in other areas of my life.
That's a great example. And this stuff applies, if it works, if it doesn't work in every area of our life, then what we're talking about here in business probably isn't as strong as it could be. It should work everywhere, including lawn mowing. I want to give, we're talking about starting with the end in mind. And I want to give this real quick, it's really a 5-question process for our listeners to get this stuff done. We've all done this in our 3 to 5 clubs. Look at 3to5club.com if you want to see more about that. And it starts with this question. If you want to start with the end in mind, the question is, what do you want? What do you want? And then secondly, when do you want it? That's the second question. So I want my lifestyle to look like this. When I'm at Nirvana, I get this amount of time and this amount of money out of my business. And I'm doing these kinds of things that create significance in my life. That's what I want. Okay, when do you want that? 6 months from now, 3 years from now, when do you want it? That's the second question. And the third question is, how am I going to get it? What do I need to do? Let's do a little map for that. And what are the things? Let's list all the things that we think we need to do between now and then. Here's where I am. Here's where I want to end up. Here's the delta. Let's eat that elephant one bite at a time. And then the next question is, what are the perceived obstacles that I can think of right now that would keep me from getting what I want? And make a short, not a long, but a short list of those. And then the last question is really just this one. What is the next one thing I need to do to get to that place 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now? What's the next one thing? So I lay that out for our listeners because I want them to come away with something, really tangible that they can use. It's a practical process of doing this, but that's what you guys have been doing for a few years here. So that never works linearly. Life isn't perfect, but how has that process of really latching on to the end in mind worked for you?
No, that's a great summary of a very helpful process. That you suggest that it happens cyclically or that it's constantly occurring, and that is definitely what we've experienced. And our business has recently gone through some difficult times where we've had to lay some people off, and revenues haven't been there. I would say that because we have this attitude of we can decide to aim at something and then ask ourselves when we're going to get there and how we're going to do that, and we don't have to boil the ocean. We can just choose the next one thing and get after that. And then once that's completed, we'll get the next one thing and keep moving towards that goal. The last 2 quarters for us have been really a profound example of that in practice. So, and I know the topic of this particular podcast is not intuition, but intuition for me, and trusting intuition versus getting stuck on having to be right, has really helped us to keep moving forward on that. So we, based on intuition and based on some data that we had from prior years, thought, this is kind of where our next couple of quarters are going to be. And once we got to the end of that first quarter, we were within 5 or 10%, and the end of the second quarter within 5 or 10% of that. So our intention was to be at X, and our reality was we were at Y, which was plus or minus 5% of where we wanted to be. And that process continues on. We're looking at the next quarter and the next quarter, and you stack a few of those quarters together, suddenly you're going, oh, I guess our intuition towards what we think we ought to be at was pretty close. And then we stuck it up on the wall and aimed at it, and we got doggone close.
So I think I would want to support you in saying that intuition is exactly part of this topic, because if I understand clearly what do I want 1, 3, or 5 years from now, all I've got from that point until 3 minutes from now is intuition. To ask myself, what's the next one thing that I should look like? And if it's 5 years out, then you have to break it down to, well, what if I want to be there in 5 years, then where do I want to be in 3 years? That's an intuitive stab. If I want to be there in 3 years, where do I want to be in 1 year? That is an intuitive stab. If I want to be there in 1 year, then what do I do this month, 12 times in a row, in order to get there a year from now? It's all intuition. And I agree with Albert Einstein, who said intuition is the highest form of human intelligence. So it's a huge part of start with the end in mind. If you know where you want to end up, then it is an intuitive approach. It's not even a guess, but it's an intuitive thing to say, well, here's what I think needs to happen in the next 12 months. And here's the next one thing that I can do. And guess how you'll find out if you were right.
You got to measure it.
Yeah, you measure it. You do something, and then you look at it and say, I measured this. Did this work?
Yeah, did it work? Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm sorry, we don't get this stuff ahead of time. We get intuition.
Right.
You get the best stab you can. So I love that you brought this up, because this is exactly what we need to do with this stuff. What do I want? When do I want it? I don't know when I want it. Well, take an intuitive stab. You'd be surprised how close your intuition is. And you gave the example. And I hear this all the time. We thought we'd be within 5 to 10% of X. And gee, what a surprise. We ended up 5 up, 5 down from that is the power of knowing where you want to end up guides you. It's not woo-woo crap. It's not mystical.
Right.
If you want to go on vacation, the first question you have to answer is where? What do I want? Well, I want to be in Boston. Well, until you figure out where you're going on vacation, this is going to be a really fuzzy preparation for vacation. You're never going to get there. But we do that in business, don't we? Just wander around hoping something good happens. We talked about that last time. So where do you want to end up? And then the first intuitive stab is, when do I want it? Well, I want it in 5 years. And I would say that for me, intuition, you mentioned this maybe in this podcast or the last one that we did, but some of this stuff was slightly scary. And that's when I know I'm onto it. If I say I want this 10 years from now and it doesn't make me a little scared, then that's too far out. If it's 3 years from now and I can say, I'm not terrified, but that's slightly scary, I am going to have to hustle. That's the way that I would use intuition to do the win. So that's my 2 cents on that. Do you have any other thoughts on this as we close out of this one? What's some of the advice you would give about how to operate with that thing on the end in mind, the next one thing, anything in there?
Yeah, no, that's a great summary. And I think probably one of the areas that really helped me was not being afraid of the numbers. So for me to sit here and tell you we were within 5 or 10% of our estimated goal for the past 2 quarters means that I had to be in the numbers, not for very long, but every week for a few minutes to keep my finger on the pulse of it and go, oh yeah, we're on trajectory for this. And if we're not, what's the lever I would pull to get us there? Is it, we need to get more clients through the door, or we just need to invoice for the projects that are currently ongoing? So are any of our current projects stuck and they need to be moved off the dime? Okay, which ones are they? Is there anything we can do about that? And looking at that on a weekly basis allows us to have enough time to steer the ship to hit those targets that are at the quarterly marks. So that for me is how we kind of applied that on a granular level.
Well, and it's a good way to put a cap on this conversation. If you have a clear idea of what you want 1, 3, 5 years from now, then one of the things you're going to have to look at is to say, well, how do I measure if I'm getting there? And numbers are the language of business. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but it is part of it. So it's a great summary of one more practical thing we need to do to get off this treadmill. Well, I'd love for people to get a hold of you guys and if they need, and when they need stories by film and video. So tell people, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place to get a hold of us is on our website at Kimball Pro, KIMBALLPRO.com. We're a little bit on the socials, but I'm going to be honest with you, we aren't investing in the socials. We're trying to get things done. Our intention is to create and tell stories of significance to our audiences. So that's what we're about. But yeah.
Great. Well, love having you on. Appreciate you. Love that you guys are being intentional and getting off the treadmill and starting with the end in mind. So keep going.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you've done, Chuck, to help get other entrepreneurs off the treadmill and into a life that they would really enjoy.
Yeah, it's been my honor. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at GROW at cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.